The lake had been silent for decades, but the day the HOA showed up, everything changed. They thought the water belonged to them until the truth surfaced. When Daniel inherited his grandfather's estate, no one paid attention at first. The paperwork looked boring to outsiders: acreage, boundary lines, old deeds. But buried deep inside the documents was something far more powerful: exclusive water rights to a massive 2,100-acre lake that fed the entire surrounding community. Daniel didn't rush to announce it. He believed in living quietly, respecting neighbors, and honoring his grandfather's legacy. The HOA board, however, had different plans. They had grown comfortable controlling the lake for years, charging fees, issuing rules, and acting as if the water was theirs by default. When they noticed Daniel repairing an old dock near the shoreline, alarms went off. Letters arrived. Fines followed. Then came the warning notices demanding he stop unauthorized lake activity. Daniel read every word calmly. He didn't respond with anger. He didn't argue. He simply smiled and placed the letters beside the inheritance documents his grandfather once told him never to lose, because what the HOA didn't know was this: the lake had never been theirs. And soon, their confidence would turn into panic. The HOA escalated fast. Confident power was on their side. They had no idea they were stepping into a legal trap. Within days, the board sent representatives to confront Daniel at the shoreline. They spoke loudly, confidently, quoting bylaws and community rules like weapons. Residents watched from a distance as the HOA declared new restrictions, threatening lawsuits if Daniel didn't comply. They claimed the lake was community managed and accused him of disrupting harmony. Daniel listened without interrupting. He asked one question only: "Can you show me the original water rights?" The board members exchanged glances. They brushed it off, saying those records were outdated and irrelevant. That was the moment Daniel knew this was no misunderstanding, it was entitlement. That evening, he met with a land attorney who specialized in historic water claims. The documents were reviewed line by line. Maps from decades ago were unfolded. Old signatures, seals, and surveyor notes told a story the HOA had never bothered to read. The lake wasn't community managed at all. It had been leased informally, without ownership, for years. Daniel wasn't angry. He was disappointed. His grandfather had allowed shared access out of kindness, not obligation. And now that kindness was being abused, the attorney leaned back and said one sentence that changed everything: "They don't own a drop of that water." The HOA's confidence began cracking when silence replaced Daniel's compliance. They didn't know he was preparing the truth. Instead of responding to threats, Daniel filed a quiet legal notice asserting his inherited water rights. No drama. No press. Just facts. The HOA laughed it off at first, telling residents it was meaningless. But behind closed doors, panic crept in. Emergency meetings were called. Lawyers were hired. Fees increased overnight. Residents started asking questions. Why was the HOA spending so much money? Why were lake privileges suddenly uncertain? The board reassured everyone, but their voices lacked conviction. Meanwhile, Daniel restored the dock fully, installed safety signs, and reopened limited access under his terms. That move shook the community. For the first time, people realized the lake might never have belonged to the HOA at all. Old residents remembered Daniel's grandfather, a quiet man who never demanded recognition. Stories resurfaced about handshake agreements and forgotten contracts. The HOA issued one final ultimatum: stop all activity or face court. Daniel accepted gladly. Court was exactly where the truth belonged, because when history meets entitlement, only one of them survives. Court day arrived, and the HOA walked in confident but unprepared. Daniel walked in calm, carrying history. The HOA's lawyers spoke first, painting the lake as a shared asset controlled for years by community authority. They cited maintenance, rules, and usage patterns. It sounded convincing until Daniel's attorney stood up. Maps were projected on the screen. Deeds dated generations back appeared. Water rights, clearly defined, unmistakably assigned to Daniel's grandfather and his heirs. The courtroom went quiet as the judge examined the evidence. The HOA tried to argue usage implied ownership, but implication doesn't override law. Then came the final blow. Daniel's attorney revealed that the HOA had been collecting fees for water they never legally controlled. The room shifted. The judge's expression changed. What began as a dispute had become an overreach. The judge recessed briefly. When court resumed, the ruling was clear. Daniel owned the water rights. Fully. Exclusively. The HOA had no authority over the lake at all, but the consequences didn't stop there. The ruling triggered a chain reaction the HOA never anticipated. Control vanished overnight. The HOA was ordered to stop all lake-related enforcement immediately. Fees collected were questioned. Contracts were frozen. Residents demanded answers. Some were angry at Daniel until they realized he had never taken anything from them. The HOA had. Daniel addressed the community personally. He explained the truth calmly, without bitterness. He offered fair access agreements, transparent rules, and optional contributions, not mandatory fees. Most residents supported him instantly. The HOA board resigned one by one. Lawsuits followed from homeowners who felt misled. The organization that once ruled through fear collapsed under its own arrogance. Daniel restored balance without revenge. He honored his grandfather's values while protecting his rights. The lake became peaceful again, not because power was enforced, but because truth finally surfaced, and the HOA learned a lesson they would never forget. Months later, the lake thrived like never before, and the silence spoke louder than any victory speech. Families returned. Kayaks floated freely. The water reflected calm skies instead of conflict. Daniel watched from the dock, knowing he could have shut everyone out but chose not to. Ownership didn't change his character. It revealed it. Former HOA leaders avoided the area. Their authority was gone, replaced by humility and consequence. Legal fees drained their accounts. Reputation followed. Daniel never celebrated loudly. He believed justice didn't need applause. The real reward was restoring honesty where control once ruled. The lake remained his, but the peace belonged to everyone who respected it. The HOA thought control meant ownership. They learned too late that history decides truth. Daniel's inheritance wasn't just land or water. It was responsibility. And when that responsibility was tested, he chose patience over pride and facts over fear. The HOA overreached. The law responded. And the lake finally returned to what it was always meant to be, a place of shared respect, not forced authority, and that was the final twist in this unbelievable HOA story. If you loved the drama, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment sharing your thoughts. It really helps this channel grow.